so I don't. Yeah. Okay, so welcome to this month in August 2025, this month's class on fear. And I titled this one to F- From Fear to Freedom, How to Stop Playing Small. And there are so many of the fears we were just talking about before we hit record on this that hold us back. But the number one fear that most everyone will hold is the fear of change. And we can have a fear that shows up in our nervous system that feels like it's scary. But I think we also hold a lot of fear inside, um, that keeps us playing small, that keeps us stuck, that keeps us from going forward, and keeps us in that space of comfort. So that's more about what we're going to look at today, in amongst everything else, and those fears that were out there. But in the event I just shared, if there was no fear, how would you change your life? Right? If you didn't, if you recognize that fear, or maybe if there was no fear. So once we recognize that fear, if we know that's there, and maybe for a moment could just pretend that it's not there, how would we change our life? What would we do differently? And are we letting those fears quietly make our decisions? Right? Because sometimes that just happens, it's in an invisible way. And have we ever thought about that? How fear might be holding us back and really keeping us from that dream that we really want to be experiencing. And sometimes we hold that in, sometimes we push it down because of those fears. Sometimes we can't even recognize the dream because of the fear. I know that's happened to me a few times. I was just thinking this morning in this journey, which has been over the last 9 years, when I left my job, knew I had to leave my job and move on to something else because I felt this pull that God was pulling me in a different way. Um, and there were so many fears that came up, and I spent a long time sitting in that fear, just really being stuck, feeling overwhelmed, not knowing what to do, not knowing which way to go, and feeling that I couldn't do anything else, right? I didn't have any skills. Who would hire me? What could I possibly go out and do? So sometimes we have to sit in that space until those fears kind of diminish and get quiet, and our potential starts to get louder and louder, that yeah, I actually could go out and do something. I don't know what it would be at that time, but this is what I've done in my lifetime up till now. I could go out and do something different. So just getting into that different mindset is so important, kind of getting into that growth mindset. And we're going to talk about that. But often those fears that hold us back are, it doesn't matter, I don't matter. It's not the right time right now, I'm too busy, or, I'll start when this is done, I'll start when the kids are going off on their own, I'll do it when I feel more ready, I'll do it when I'm prepared. So sometimes those fears come up as being really quiet. Sometimes they come up as being very obvious, and we can feel them in our nervous system. And so, yeah, fear can have a grip on us. And I think we've all gone through circumstances, through experiences where we really recognize that fear is holding us back. And we become more aware of our fear the more that we go on this journey. So we're going to be talking a lot about fear. We're going to be talking about our fear persona for today, which is the fear of change. And I have named her Cautious Connie. So we're going to talk about her and how her fears, we might recognize in things that are going on in our life. We're going to have a little bit of quiet time, and we'll do some journaling. I have some journal prompts made up, and we'll just have a little bit of place for calm and clarity, and place to find some courage that we can go out and do some of the things that we want to be doing. So hopefully we'll to have some awareness in this session, recognize how we can see fear, and just take away some actions that will move us forward. So again, I really think that sometimes fear comes up really loud, right? Where it's yelling like, stop, don't go forward, that's too scary. And we can feel it in our nervous system. And sometimes it's quiet, it's very subtle, And sometimes it comes as disguised. So we really pay attention when our nervous system is high, right? We can feel it moving throughout our body. Sometimes it focuses in one certain area. I can always feel it in my back or in my belly. So I don't know if you can recognize how fear shows up for you. If you want to share that in the chat there, feel free, or in the comments if you're here on the replay. And again, I think we need to pay attention to that. Okay, there's that feeling again. What is that feeling? Where is that? What does it feel like? What is that bringing up inside of me? And the more that we can become aware of what we're feeling and what we're thinking and what we're doing at the time and what that's bringing up, those thoughts, I think that can create more awareness. And the more awareness we have, the more that we're apt to change. And so when it's loud and obvious and we know that feeling is maybe from a past problem in a relationship, an experience in a relationship, maybe it's some trauma that you experienced from your childhood, right? Oh, there's that thought again, there's that feeling. And then we can ask ourselves, okay, what is that? Because often it's not what's going on in the moment, it's something that's bringing up from our past. So it's those thoughts, it's those experiences, it's those traumas that we're just reliving. And so can we change that? Can we work on that? Can we work through that in a different way? Often we have to do some healing. And sometimes we can change it with a change in thought. Okay, that's something that happened 10 years ago, and I'm not there. I'm here right now, and I want to go forward. So we can change that thought in the moment. But sometimes we have to go back and really work through that and do some healing around whatever it is, whatever that experience was. So that's part of the growth. That's part of our personal development. Okay, I need to work on this. I need to get through this. Um, I need to heal this. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of those feelings to come up all the time and keep me stuck and keep me scared. Right? I want to go out and do these things. So I want to change. And I think there's this quote that says, when the pain of where you are outweighs the pain of change, that's when we start to move. That's when we start to do something about it, because it's painful to be where I am and feel these fears and feel this heightened nervous system all the time, especially when I recognize what that is. It's time to do something about it. I want to be over here. I want to be um, feeling more empowered in my future. So I need to work on today so that I can be better. And so I really believe that fear influences our choices and our decisions without even realizing it, right? Because we push it away. So instead of recognizing where we are in that moment in fear, in that heightened nervous system, right? We could push that away and just say, no, it's too scary. I'm going to stay where I am. And I think we do. We stay where we are for a certain period of time until we're ready to do something about it. And sometimes that just comes with support, in a supportive community, in searching out for that healer or that person that can help you, or that program that can help you move through that in a healthy and safe way. So we really recognize how fear really grips us, right? And sometimes it creates almost like an invisible limit in our career, in our relationships, in our health and our wellness, in our self-care, in our vision, in our dreams for the future, right? So we have that invisible limit, like it's like a barrier, it's like a ceiling, right? I can only go this far. I could never go and do that. I could never do what I really want to be doing. So sometimes it keeps us in unhealthy places, in unhealthy relationships, in unhealthy career, maybe a career that we've outgrown that we need to move on from. I'm not able to do that because it's too scary, right? I feel that in my nervous system. I can't leave here because I don't know enough. I don't have the skills. I could never do that. People would laugh at me. People would reject me. People would judge me, right? So we stay in things that we've outgrown. And sometimes we hold ourselves back even in our business. I can see in ways that I hold myself back in my business, um, because I'm not able to go forward. I'm refusing, I'm not making that choice to go forward. So once we recognize that, it's just like, oh, I've been holding myself back all this time, right? It's like we need to allow ourselves to grow, to give ourselves permission to do more, to do more. So sometimes we have to acknowledge that. It's like we refuse to grow. Refuse to allow ourselves to grow. So once we acknowledge that, becomes aware to us, we can change that and it makes us feel good, right? So we go from having that heightened nervous system to something that feels so good and empowering. Once we are doing something that we're passionate about, feels good, right? We're empowered, we're motivated, we get into momentum, we're fulfilling our passion and our purpose for our life. And then sometimes I wonder if we actually subconsciously, without knowing, invisibly create circumstances that don't really exist to keep us in that comfort zone, keep us safe, right? So I can't do that because I'd have to do this and this and this and this and this. And we create these stepping stones that really don't exist. And I think we do that subconsciously. I know I do, right? We create all these um, blocks, obstacles, things that would get in the way. But really, when we think about it, and this is so true about procrastination, when we think about it, there's just one or two steps to get to where we want to be, right? And so when we are in that growth mindset, we can see that, okay, I just need to do this, and this will lead me to this. And once we start stepping, things start to open up, and it's never as complex as we think it is, right? It's just that we're used to this. We're used to the box. We're used to this safe zone where we stay until we're ready to change, right? And so that safe zone is great, right? Feels good, it's comfortable, but it's also safe, and it keeps us small. And so I think fear often speaks in those, well, what if this would happen? And sometimes it's just the negative what ifs, right? It's what if this is risky? What if they laugh at me? What if they judge me? What if I can't do it? Right? Rather than if we were in that growth mindset, it would, what if this was possible? Right? What if we could actually do that? Can we get curious in the what ifs and get curious about what's on the other side of that fear? Right? So we're always on the bridge, we're going to where we want to go. And what if? What if that was actually possible? What if I could actually do that? You know, I've been sharing just on Facebook and in a few videos, just something that's happened to me in the last few weeks in Sammy's 30-day business challenge. And I think it was day 2 when we talked about um, turning on the faucet, letting go of those fears and allowing things to flow to you. Because often we hold ourselves back and we turn down that faucet. So we're just getting these little tiny drips, drip, drip, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here. But what if we could turn on that faucet and just accept the goodness and the greatness that we are here to have, right? We are here to live out the dream that we hold inside of us. And so what if we could just allow it to flow? Allow it to flow rather than thinking, okay, I don't deserve this. Okay, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. This is never going to work out. What if something goes wrong, right? So can we speak in those what ifs and just allow more to come to us and be open to receive, to know that we are worthy, to know that we are deserve to receive all of the greatness that is destined for us. And so once I recognized that, and she gave us a quote or a journal prompt just to work around, is that what if there was no fear? What if there was no fear? And what if we had unlimited resources to do what we wanted to do? What would you do differently? What would you do tomorrow? How would you live your life differently? And it just really opened up a dream for me that I had been pushing down for the last 3 years. And I remember our very first conversation when we were kind of planning out my goals and the dreams for the future. I had this dream and I actually had forgotten about it, right? I had just pushed it down. And once I brought it to life again, it was just like, oh yeah, let's go and do this, right? Let's go and do this. So now I'm thinking about and being curious about all of the what ifs in the future for me. And that was part of my business. So I think once we do that, it's just like we get that spark of energy again. We get that spark of passion again. And it's like, okay, let's go and do this. Because I guess now I'm ready. And back then I wasn't. I had too much fear. There was a risk. It was rejection. It would never work out, right? But once you get past that and think that all things are possible and you have that belief inside of you, it changes that story. So we are going to talk about Cautious Connie today, and this is that fear of change and the fear of being cautious and a fear of, okay, what if this happens again, right? And so when we look at her, it's really interesting just to see not only physically what she looks like and kind of create some stories around there, but how that affects her life and how maybe we can take this in and just see how maybe this is what we're doing in holding ourselves back. And again, fear of change is the number one fear that most people experience. And it's so true because we will put up a guard, right? Whether it's a change that we want to make in ourselves internally or in our business, in our life, in our relationships. And maybe it's a change that is imposed upon us. Maybe it's in a job, and maybe we've got some changes in our relationships, in our home, in our life, in our with our friends. Sometimes just coming into that empty nest period is a time of change that we weren't really ready for, and how that's going to affect us. So changes come in all forms, especially as we go through life in different areas and different ages. Things come up that we are imposed on and make us change and make us aware of how our world is changing as we also age. So once we can identify the change and how we're either accepting or rejecting it, can really make a difference. So fear can really shape our beliefs either. And again, can I really do this? Is this what I'm meant to do? Is this actually possible? Right? So sometimes it rewires our brain into, okay, I can't do this right now. I'm not ready for this. I'm not prepared. And again, back to that worthy piece. This isn't what I deserve. Isn't what I'm ready for, and this isn't what I've been working towards. So it really keeps us in that cycle of doubt, and it keeps us stuck in that cycle of procrastination, right? I'm not ready to do this, so I'm not going to go forward. Um, I'm not educated enough. I don't have enough skills. I'm not ready. This is too risky. So it really keeps us in that cycle until we're aware of what that fear story is telling us. So what is that fear script for you? And I remember for me, this is kind of back when I started doing this work in 9 years of personal development, is that, okay, I could never do that, or, it doesn't matter, or um, whatever. When I started hearing whatever, it was like, okay, there's that story again. And I needed to flip that switch and flip that scripting and that story that was being played in my mind. And I very seldom hear whatever anymore. If I'm tired and I've had maybe a long day or a long week, sometimes I'll hear whatever, but I can notice it and then just, okay, yeah, that's the old story. That's the old me. That's tired me. That's the hungry me. And I can flip that pretty quickly. But as we grow and change, transform, as we evolve into that future version of ourselves, we get new fears, right? So it's really interesting to be aware of that and see what comes up. So as we get aware, we have a choice, right? We can acknowledge that, we can push it away, and we can just carry on. We can become aware, we have that choice, and we can do something different. And I think it's just that whole circle that we can change the fear what if with the possibility of what if, and the curiosity about what if this was actually possible, rather than the what if this happens, what if it's scary, what if there is that risk, right? So if we can reframe that fear, not as a danger, but as a growth, that's when things will start to change. So when we think about the mindset of um, growth, it's always the what if. What if I could actually do this? What if I took action and this could happen? What if I could learn? What if I kept trying? Right? Rather than the fixed mindset that will never work and we put it away. End of story. Right? The growth mindset is okay, I'm going to work on this. This is really important to me. And I really believe that I can do it. So just that ability in thinking about the future in a positive way. And maybe that challenge comes up as an opportunity to grow, to learn new skills, to um, be better at what I'm doing, rather than thinking of it as a failure, or I'm not capable, or I could never do that, or I'm not deserving of that. What if that was possible? Because often, as they say, and the book Ryan Halliday wrote, is the obstacle is the way. What if that obstacle was actually the opportunity and the thing to learn about, right? To grow and to stretch ourselves. And we could come to the point of self-improvement, working on ourselves, um, getting to that path of mastery, and just in that effort and those little baby steps going forward, they're going to make us better every day, rather than thinking of it as I don't have those skills, I don't have the ability, right? I'm not even going to try because it's pointless. Yeah, and sometimes we get discouraged, right? So we think that I've been trying and trying and trying, I can't do this, I'm not able, and then it gets discouraging. But can we look at that as a place to grow, as feedback is a way to improve? And so there's lots of these things that we can work around if we think positively about it and think about growth, think about learning and improving and learning new skills. And I think when we're open to that, the world opens up also, and God gives us the things that we need, the opportunities, the people, the collaborations, the friends, the support systems that we really need to take us forward. But when we focus on the what if in that negative manner, then that's what we get. What we think about, we bring about. What we focus on expands. And again, if when we surround ourselves with people that encourage us to grow, that encourage us to be who we are, and to encourage us to chase our dreams, we can also, that's another way of just working on those fears and moving into that growth zone that's going to take us to where we want to go. So I am going to share my screen, and we're going to look at, just going to check the chat here and see what Nicholas says. Fear just keeps me frozen. Isn't that true? Yeah, and sometimes we just don't know what to do. And so we stay there until we're ready to move on. And I think that's just part of the process. I know I was there for the longest time. It probably took me 2 years to finally have the courage to say, okay, I need to make a change, and I need to look at where I'm going to go. And it's just that little baby steps, right? And it's a baby step in action. It's a baby step in what we're thinking about. And yeah, it's all part of the journey, all part of the journey. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Gosh, I have so many on here. Hold on. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to share my sound for, oops, back here. Okay, so many of you have probably seen this. Can you see this emotional guidance scale? Okay, many of us have probably seen this, but I love it and I like to look at it because it really shows where we are and gives us an idea of where we want to go. And the whole idea, I believe in this, is to spend less time between the low and the high. So when we know that we're down at the bottom in fear, in insecurity, in some of these fears, doubt, worry, blame, jealousy, anger. So when we know we're there, we want to get back into where we want to be, right? We want to get to the other side of these negative, low vibrational feelings. We want to get back into love, joy, appreciation, passion, enthusiasm, and all of the places that we want to be that will take us to where we want to go. Because if we're going to be down in fear without our power, we're going to attract more of that, right? So if we can slowly make our way up, and like I say, if we can have a shorter distance between where we are and where we want to go. So when we are in that fear and we want to get to that highest level again, I can honestly say I used to spend probably weeks down at the bottom, whereas now I can see where I am and I know where I want to be, so I can spend less time, an hour or two, sometimes a day, but it's definitely a shorter time period. So this is a really good one. I'll put this one in the group and we can print it off and put it on our bulletin board or on our walls so that we can look at, and just a good reminder of the bright vibrations that go along with these emotions and where we want to be. And again, what we think about, we bring about, right? So what we focus on expands. So when we're focusing on those low vibration feelings, we're going to get more of that. So if we try and stay high, we're going to get more of that. We're going to get more of the people. We're going to get more of the feelings. We're going to get more of those emotions that keep us on our path to where we want to go. So I love that, Abraham Hicks. So this is Connie, cautious Connie, and she looks like a professional lady that she looks very pensive. She looks worried, doesn't she? She looks maybe a bit anxious about things. And so when we talk about this fear of change, I just wrote down a few things here and we can add to this. And if you want to unmute and say anything, just shout it out about what she might be thinking or feeling, and how it affects us, and maybe how the fear of change affects you. And so she does look worried. She looks anxious, and maybe she's thinking about whatever she's thinking about. Maybe there's something going on at work. Maybe there's something going on in her personal life. Sometimes this fear of change is very consuming in our life, and it's hard to keep us focused on where we want to go, right? Because it's consuming our every thought. It's consuming our day, and it's always there. We're always focusing on it. So I think it takes away our power. It keeps us in those, maybe those low vibration emotions, keeps us stuck in that fear, right? It's keeping us comfortable. It keeps us playing small. So we're holding down, we're holding back, we're pushing down on the things that maybe we really want to be doing because it's scary to think about change. So I think it holds us back in a professional, in a career-based, and maybe we're avoiding applying for different jobs or promotions, or thinking about that rank in our business, or thinking about exploring new options of helping more people in our business. And maybe we're feeling unfulfilled in our role as it is, and we're not open to exploring new opportunities that could be happening. And sometimes we're not adapting, we're not pivoting when our company and our business is changing, right? Um, and that can be scary in many ways, in that I might be afraid of losing my job. I might be fear of rejection, that I'm not keeping up with these changes because it's too scary for me. And sometimes when those changes are imposed on you, it's hard, right? It's hard to even ask for help because we're scared of being rejected, or we're scared of losing in that. And maybe this person is holding on to that job that we're feeling, maybe we've outlived. Maybe we've got stuff going on at home in our relationships. And sometimes we feel like we just have to show up, right? I have to do that. And sometimes trying something new is challenging, whether it's a new skill that we want to learn, a new group that we want to join, some new friendships that we want to be exploring, right? Keeps us from growing. It keeps us from accepting risks because it's too risky to change. And sometimes we just say, I'm not that type of person that does anything new. And even when we look at our health and wellness and our self-care, right? Sometimes we stick to those routines that aren't really working. So we're not going to the exercise classes that we really want to be going to because they make us feel good. And we avoid changing our diet. We hold back on healthy choices because we're not sure. And just that fear of change is something that's too different. And sometimes we just don't start things because we feel like we're going to fail, like that change is going to be too much for us. And I think the same in investing in ourselves. We're not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm not sure if I can be committed. So we stay away from that fear of change, which is actually going to help us in the long run over time feel better about ourselves and feel better about doing some of the things that we want to be doing and really getting into that change that we really want to be experiencing. So we just don't start because we just don't know. And sometimes it's about where we are in our home, in our environment. Maybe we have some unfinished projects that we don't want to finish. And almost like we just don't allow ourselves. So sometimes we create those subconscious habits I was talking about earlier that keep us stuck, right? So we stay in the messy house. We stay not committing to a healthy, like a health and wellness plan that's really going to help us because it's easier to stay stuck and stay where we are. And just even that fear of change can bring up that fear of commitment, right? I'm going to have to show up and do these things and I can't do that. So it's interesting how this fear can show up. And if you have anything else to share, you can share it in the comments in the chat. But I think this really encompasses a lot about the fear of change. And so we're just going to do some journaling, and I'm going to go back to the one prompt that I shared earlier that was such a prominent for me. If there was no fear and I had unlimited resources in whatever that means for you, if I had the money, if I had the time, if I had the energy, if I had whatever I needed, what would I do today that I've always wanted to do? And if I gave my fear a name and a voice, what would it say to me right now? And if I chose courage over comfort, what would that look like for me? And so we're going to spend about 8 minutes or so just in some quiet. I'm going to play some music. And if you want to just choose one of these, I think 3 is too much. It's too much for my brain anyways. I just usually focus on one. But if you wanted to just choose one and just sit with that for a minute and see what comes up. If you want to do some writing, that's always a valuable practice, and just writing down and giving a voice to some of those thoughts that we have in our mind. And we'll just spend a moment or two just sitting in this and see what comes up. So if you don't hear this music, if you can just let me know.
In the quiet of this moment, where your presence fills the air. Every breath becomes a whisper of a love beyond compare. Sacred ground beneath our feet now, as we bow our hearts in awe. You're the God who never changes, holy, holy, without flaw. From everlasting to everlasting, you remain so. Your glory shall never decline. We lift your holy. Through the darkness and the mountains, through the storm and through the calm, you have been our faithful shelter, holding us within your palm. Every promise you have spoken stands forever, sinless, sure. You're the rock of our salvation, covenant in you. You everlasting, you remain steady. Your mercy, Lord, ever bestowing. Days upon In the stillness, I remember all the times you carried me. Through the darkness, you were faithful, setting every captive free. Kadosh Letanah. It is my king, I'm looking for you. Only forever.
Well, hopefully that gave you enough time to just think about some things, about some of these fears that we hold on to. So, yeah, just a reminder about how that fear holds us back, and do we have a next step? What can we do next, and what is a brave step that we can take? And sometimes if we just make a small action step, something that's non-negotiable, something that I have to do in the next day or two, helps us kind of get started, and something that we're comfortable with. I think that takes us down that journey is always easy. And I know when we're doing the vision work and the dream work and we're building this great big dream that really excites us, and then it comes to the point where it gets scary, right? Because fear of change is scary and we make it too big. And then that's what happens with when we do our vision boards and we do these big, hairy, audacious goals, is that they get pushed to the side because it's too much. So if we can just break it down into one very, very small manageable step at that very beginning, it just kind of gets us going. And really, honestly, things just start to open up once we get to that point. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Thank you for being here and having the courage to look at fear in a different way. And I hope that you've got some nuggets out of there and think differently about the fear of change. I'm just going to stop that recording